Hi, Darlene. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. I'm really happy you contacted me in order for me to tell my story, so to speak.
Yes, and an important story it is. To frame just a little bit, you were diagnosed with a neuroendocrine cancer, stage two,
No,
um,
it was grade two.
grade two, stage four.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. So, if you wouldn't mind just sharing for anyone who's listening your story, and we can start there.
Okay. Well, I knew I had been having problems with my stomach for years, and my doctors had diagnosed it over and over again as a stomach migraine, and I never had any scans or anything. So anyway, finally I had an ultrasound, and then I thought it was going to be for a routine colonoscopy. And so when I went to see the general surgeon who was doing the colonoscopy, I had an appointment with her, and I thought she was just going to go over the procedures for what I had to do or what to expect. So I'm in her office. She comes in and she says to me, "You have stage 4 cancer. It doesn't look good." And I was just like, wow. I just get hot flashes even thinking about it because it was so unexpected. And then she started telling me about the process for the procedure that she was going to do with the colonoscopy. And then she said, "So is everything clear? You know what's ahead?" And I said, "I never heard anything you said except you have stage 4. Doesn't look good." So anyway, that's how it all started. And so then I was set up for a biopsy, and that's when it came back the way it is. So they set me up with an oncologist here in my hometown. He was a lovely, lovely man. I only had him for a few years because he was getting on the verge of retirement. So their first line of defense for the stage and the grade of my cancer is to do these octreotide shots. It's a somatostatin receptor that kind of inhibits that. So that was fine. I went on that for 5 months, and and it's once a month. It's a intramuscular injection. So on the fifth time, I just got some really bad back pains, and it hurt, and I didn't like it, and I just said to my husband, "There's just has to be more." I was kind of down and depressed, and but anyway, one day I just woke up, and my mother, who's passed away, always used to say to me, if you're having a bad day or if you're down about something, let yourself have that bad day. And then she'd always say, "Okay, that's enough now." So I said to myself, "That's enough now. I got to look after this. I'm going to take control." That started my research. So I've been researching for 9 years. So I didn't take the
Okay.
shot.
Were you originally diagnosed?
When was I originally diagnosed?
What year?
2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah. So they did scans and told me the size of the tumors and whatnot. So I had a fair bit of information. There's some tests that you can take. It's a 24-hour urine test and some blood tests that can indicate, the activity and sort of thing. So I researched all that to see, to understand what it was. So then I just started looking at alternative things to do. It's just my nature to question things. And I have so much respect for doctors and oncologists and what they do. I really do. And I wouldn't be where I am without them. However, I just still needed to do what I thought was best for me because it just was so general, and everybody and I would go in these waiting rooms to meet with a doctor, and I saw people who were just so ill and so sick and not necessarily that old, and I thought that's not going to be me. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure it's not. So that's how I started on my research.
And how soon was that after you got diagnosed?
Oh, about 3, 4 months, very
Okay.
quickly. Yeah.
And did you continue doing those treatments?
No, I stopped doing them.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And against my oncologist advice, So they said, okay, if you don't want to do that, then I was referred to another oncologist who specializes in this cancer, and they do a liver embolization, which just is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the procedure. They go through an artery in your arm, and so they embolize these tumors. So I had 2 sessions of those, and in between that, um, nothing. I changed my diet incredibly. I started exercising a lot, and I bought, and I just I found a great naturopath in my hometown that specializes in cancer. And I
Beautiful.
also
Where are
have,
you located?
where am I located? In Barrie, Ontario, in
Okay,
Canada.
Canada.
Yeah. And I have a great, and then I got a new GP, and she's does whatever she's awesome. She says, I'll work with your naturopath, whatever you need. So I test myself all the time. So I can take blood tests regularly to see how my liver enzymes are doing, and I can take my urine test to see how active the cancer is. And they just give me open requisitions, so I can just go get this done as much as I want, because I'm always changing up my protocols to see what's working,
Right,
right?
right. Pivoting as our, I
Yeah.
think this is one of the important things to understand is that, we always have to adapt because the cancer process will change or the cancer gets more creative. And so we have to constantly be monitoring and adapting.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tricky thing that's going on in there. And so and I have a library of books that
Mm,
I've read and reread, and I find something new every time I go in them. And then between that and my internet searches and my naturopath, it's just been my mission. But I like it. I actually like it a lot. But I don't find when I go to my oncologist for appointments and follow-ups and things like that for scans, I'm upfront with them about what I do, but um and they just don't even really acknowledge it. So, so I say, well, I'm doing, intravenous vitamin C. Oh yeah. Do you have any allergies? And I go, no, no, I'm good. And that they don't even really respond to it
right.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
it's hard and it's hard for them too because they're not trained in those types of
Yeah,
therapies and so
absolutely.
what really can they say? And I want to just touch on the adapt component again because a lot of times and I want to have you talk a little bit about the therapies, some of the other therapies you're doing. But I want to preface it to say a lot of people will say if they're listening to this and they find this testimonial and they find out that you have the same type of cancer that they do, they'll say, "Oh, I'm just going to do all of the things that Darlene is doing." And one
Mhm.
of the things that we want to emphasize is that that's because you are testing yourself and you
Yes,
fit when you need to. And so we often tend to think, okay, somebody with neuroendocrine cancer, then I just do everything that they do. And that doesn't mean that's why you got cancer and that has to do with what is going to work for somebody else.
absolutely. Because everybody is just so different, right? And you may not have the same grade, you may not have the same stage, and the metastases might be in other places. So it's I belong to a neuroendocrine group, like just on Facebook, and read their stories and see that. But it's astounding because everybody is so different. So, and I've adapted it. I've kind of been my own guinea pig, and I've adapted it over the years. I do things now that I didn't do years ago, and like years ago when I started doing things. Um, I've dropped some of them and add some of them and drop and add and that sort of thing, right? Based on my research, based on my consultations with my naturopath, and kind of kind of take control for myself. And like I said, I have access to these tests to do anytime I want. And the scans in what the main tumors that are on my liver right now are not any bigger. Actually, they're smaller than they were what was diagnosed originally 9 years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah. So now I have a new oncologist because they wanted me to do this special treatment called PRRT, which is targeted chemotherapy and radiation for this kind of cancer. You get a gallium-68 test, and it shows you the somatostatin receptors, and then when you do this PRT, it just goes directly to those. But they say that they're almost diagnosing me as a new patient, like that I've just found out, because they say I don't qualify for it because I've never done the the original protocol to start. I haven't started with the basics first to eliminate that and then go on to the next step, which is fine with me. So now they want me to go on these um, shots once a month. So I'm going to give it a try again, knowing that, or hoping that is what it's supposed to do, is stabilize the tumors. And then I'm going to dig even deeper now that they're stabilized to work on getting them shrunk. So,
Yeah, and that's interesting. So 9 years, they've been the same size. And so let me just take a step back. Did they give you an expiration date initially?
oh, sorry, a what?
An expiration date? Did they give you a diagnosis in terms of amount of
I
time
never
to live?
asked.
No.
No, I never asked, and I didn't want to know. When I first found out about it, I looked on the internet and I read what the prognosis were for this or that, right? And I thought, I don't need to know that because it's not going to be me.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you
Good. I
know,
love that. Yeah, and we
yeah.
have this idea that, okay, I have these tumors, I have to get rid of them or else they're going to kill me. And I think hearing you, 9 years, you're living with them.
I know. I think now that, like, I thought about that this week, and I thought, as healthy as I am now with this, if I stay this healthy, I'm super happy. I mean, I'm 70 years old. I've done 2 triathlons. I plan to do 2 more this year, and I
Amazing.
do all sorts of things. I paddle, I golf, I swim, I work out at the gym, and so I stay fit and active, and I think if I feel this good after this many years, then that's how I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, is basically what I'm saying, right? And
Yeah.
I do listen to what the oncologist says. Like, I have a meeting with them tomorrow to start these shots. And I will go on the shots again, but for sure I'll be monitoring them.
I
I
was
will
going to
ask,
say,
yeah,
you have some benchmarks. So if you
yes,
see,
yes,
white blood cells or hemoglobin or
yes,
neutrophil to lymphocyte, any of these things start to shift,
yeah,
you can talk to your other doctors about it and say,
yeah. Well, I just went to a naturopath because my liver I have a new one, and he's amazing. I think he's even spoken at different sessions where Dr. Winters has been also. And so I'm taking these supplements that are working on getting my liver enzymes down, and I was on them for just over 2 weeks. I got my blood tested, and two of them had dropped over 100 points. Like, it was remarkable. And
that's
so, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for this kind of cancer, they say that the 24-hour urine HIAA is the gold standard to see what the activity is. So that's the one the liver enzymes, and that one is what I'm gonna monitor after I go on these shots, because I'm still updating my protocols. I just updated it today because I found this new thing I want to try. So, you know.
I love that. And just a little bit of thought behind this that you've probably already thought of, but just for people who are listening, is one of the things that can be incredibly helpful is if you go look at the trial data for that particular therapy, for that particular drug, and then it'll say it'll have the top symptoms, but it'll also have the major symptoms or the
Mhm.
major issues. If you go look at those major issues, and then you determine what the lab work would look like for those major issues,
Yes.
Like immune dysregulation or something of that nature, then you go look at those labs and then you say, okay, these are going to be my measurements,
Hmm.
right? Because these are the major side effects. So I want to look at those to make sure that if I start heading down any of those major side effects, I can catch it before it gets too far.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and I check like I say, I have spreadsheets on my blood work. I have spreadsheets on my my urine test to see when it's going up and up and what I've taken, to help it go, that makes it goes up, make whatever makes it go up. I don't know up and down, but I keep spreadsheets all and add to them to see where I'm at because it's me, it's my body, and it interests me, right? And I look at everything on PubMed to see what the papers are. So my research not just is what I'll read on the internet. I'll go to science papers, or I'll look on PubMed, or I'll refer or ask my GP or my naturopath about it. So I do, so I it's almost like it's a hobby now, right?
Yeah, I imagine in the beginning it was overwhelming, but now you're 9 years into it. So talk about that process a little bit.
Well, I was always antsy and nervous before every test, and it just would set me back. And then I had definitely some low periods where if there was a slight grow or a slight in the tumors or a slight increase in the numbers that weren't going my way, it would set me back. But and I just it would take me sometimes days to process that information. And then once I processed it, then I go, okay, now let's just find out what I can do about it. And I, and now after 9 years, they don't set me back um, because it's just the ebb and flows, just some things you're doing and some things you aren't. And if I know that I've had a setback in a number that maybe it's elevated more than I like or it has been before, then I double down on my diet, I double down on my exercise. And I can honestly say that I never did much of meditation or soul searching or that kind of thing. And after reading these books, I just thought that was the last thing I was neglecting. So I've been working on that for the last year. And I just find that I'm a happier person for it, which I think is just beneficial because it's not that you necessarily have issues, you just don't know. And there can just be one little thing that's on your mind that goes back deep or whatever. And so anyway, so I've been doing some hypnotherapy and
Beautiful.
I have a sauna that I bought, so an infrared sauna. So I sit in there and I'll listen to music or relax or whatever, right? So I just it's making me happier. I'm pretty happy where I am now, but still determined to. I know that I don't know that you can ever if I can ever be diagnosed without disease, but it's kind of a goal of mine to do that because I have lots of things I need to do still, right?
Yeah. Yes. And you feel great.
I do, yeah,
Why
yeah,
not do them? Yeah,
yeah,
and happy mind is happy cells, right?
absolute oh,
Makes
for
a
sure.
huge difference when we are not feeling right, mentally and emotionally, that really weighs heavy on our cells. It's all just this symbiotic relationship and it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, because I felt like for years I just had my foot on the gas to find out more, do search more, research more, and it's just and then I just and so then I just thought that can't be good for me because you're in a chronic stressful state all the time. And that's when I decided I need to get into more mindfulness and calmness and that kind of thing. And that's I've really it's not a tangible thing, but it's a noticeable thing, if
Yeah.
that means anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that, we can notice it immediately in somebody's labs when they start working on some of
Oh
the
yeah.
patterns. I think back to your point is like may not be anything big, but it's patterns that we have that we learned from when we were a child. And we, sometimes shifting those patterns and shifting those thought processes can make a huge difference.
Hmm.
And then that constant drive just to, constantly be going can put us really in a state of stress.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, so that's I think that's working for me now that I've acknowledged that a little more over the last year or so. My husband seems to think so too.
It's always good. And how is your husband doing in supporting you in this? Obviously, he's been supporting you for 9 years, but
Oh, he's fantastic.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
he,
nice.
he's with me every appointment and drive me wherever I need to go, always there for me. So no, that's I'm very, very fortunate, because that he's a huge support system for.
Support system is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And so, if you can touch a little bit on some of the therapies that you have been doing. So you mentioned kind of a diet. Is there a particular diet you've been following? Is it eating clean?
It's mostly eating clean. I did try the keto diet for a while, but I it just didn't feel right for me. So it's it's a lot of it's clean as that it's in I eat everything I can possibly that's organic and grass-fed meat and beef and that sort of thing when I do eat meat, but it's not as often. But lots of lots of vegetables, and I eat raw vegetables, and of course I've never been a sugar person, um, but there was an element there where I cut back on that, but that wasn't too difficult. But yeah, just really eating as clean as I can. And there's a local store here that sells mostly are all organic produce, so I'm really fortunate that way. So I do that for sure. I mean, I
And
do
it
have
sounds like
some.
you stay fairly low carb.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah. And it's I mean, I have some days where I fall off the wagon, but that's okay.
Well,
I
again, goes
Yeah.
goes back to that stress, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we're too rigid all of the time, but
Mhm.
you have to have that balance to stay healthy too.
I
So,
know, I know. And like things to me, I've never been a big person on fast food and that kind of thing anyway, so it's not something that I indulge in hardly ever, but so
yeah,
and it's not even before I class it as a treat. Now I don't even not e- now it's not a treat, right?
right,
Just
right.
the good clean food is a treat. So I
Yeah.
really am kind of strict on that.
Isn't it funny how you can start to taste the difference?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and then once you start moving to clean foods, you realize how terrible processed foods taste. I mean, they taste like cardboard and
Yeah, and I believe too in like the gut and the mind connection too. And I know how much I feel better mentally when I eat clean also. I
yeah,
really, really notice that for sure.
yeah.
So, yeah, you can like I can have something that years ago I thought would be like, oh, I don't know, just even a donut, like, oh, I would really like that with a cup of tea. And now I can't even tolerate it because it's so sweet and so, yeah. So you
Sits
really,
on your stomach funny.
yeah.
And I can taste chemicals and stuff now.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely, I have there's a natural spring water close to where I live. It's like, I don't know, 15, 16 kilometers away. And there's been tests done on it. It's in Elmvale here in Ontario. And my husband goes and gets enough to last me for 3 weeks. It's the only water I've drank in about the last 7 years when I'm at home. And there's been papers and research on it that it's part of 1% of the world's water that is pure. And
Wow.
they say it's as clean as water was 5,000 years ago. So I
What a
drink that.
blessing to be able to get that.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
water is such a huge part of what's making us sick.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I get a lot of pushback and a lot of comments from people, but I mean, like, say from family or friends or relatives, like, but I don't care.
You're alive. You're
Yeah,
breathing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And not everybody, can necessarily understand. Some people can, really take on lots and be totally healthy and totally fine, or at least they think they are.
Yeah. And if you think you are, you know, I've had so many people in my life in the last year and a half that are very close to me who have passed away from cancer. One of my best friends in my old hometown was diagnosed. We're in different parts of Canada. We were both diagnosed at the same month, the same year with the same cancer, which was just blew us
Wow.
blew our mind because it was something we had never heard of before. Anyway, she unfortunately she passed away last year, and but she didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. She just worked and worked and worked, and she had a poor diet. And I'm not saying that was her demise, but you know, we never talked about it because she didn't think that what I was doing was I don't know, just not.
Who's going to
I
help?
don't. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. 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 I was having a conversation with somebody today who was just recently diagnosed with blood cancer. And they said, well, there's nothing I can do about it because I have this mutation, right? And we often think that, okay, I have this genetic factor, this genetic mutation, that means I can't do something about it. And so we feel hopeless. And the reality of it is if you have a mutation, then that means you need to be very metabolically healthy. And this is where it really matters and it really plays into it. And it's hard to understand that,
I know. I
and
say that.
especially if your doctor says, sorry.
I know so many people say, well, they must have had the gene. And I go, well, anybody can have a gene, but it's how it expresses itself through epigenetics, how it expresses itself, whether it can become cancerous or not, right? It's not, it's not, did all these millions of people have this gene that, from their parents or their grandparents? The death rate then wasn't like it is now.
Well,
So, but
and there's so many genes. There's so many
yeah,
what are labeled as like cancer genes. The chances of you not having genes is
yeah.
rare, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's going to have some type of cancer gene. It doesn't mean it causes cancer.
Yeah,
It just means that we all need to really be focusing on our health. And what are
yes,
some of the other therapies that you are doing? So you mentioned exercise, obviously, movement, which is so good. What
yeah.
are some other ones?
Well, I take quite a few supplements. I do intravenous vitamin C. I go through periods of that where I do that high dose. So now I'm just doing it for 15 weeks and then I'll go off it for a while. And I do that with mistletoe in there. And then in between those mistletoe IVs, I do the injections myself at home. So I take that every week, a couple times a week. I take lots of different kinds of mushroom supplements, and I take things like berberine. I read this book also that talks about the pathways that feed the cancer. So there I and I talked to my naturopath about this and picking supplements that naturally block these pathways. So berberine helps block the glucose pathways, which
Yeah.
um, feeds cancer, right? Yeah, and there's also some off-label drugs that do that too, that I'm thinking about going on, like metformin, and just so I take that, and I take, oh man, um, I take milk thistle every day. I take EGCG every day because I tried drinking green tea. I don't mind the odd cup of it, but my stomach doesn't like it for some
Doesn't
reason.
like the tannins in it.
No, no.
Yeah.
And
Probably don't do great with red wine either.
oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
and I gave up. I quit drinking too. I wasn't much of a drinker, but enough where I thought, oh, why not just quit
Yeah.
drinking, right?
Especially if you've got mets on your liver.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and I take D3 with K2.
Okay.
Um
Great. Keeping the
Elite,
immune
yeah.
level strong.
And I actually was on fenbendazole for quite a while too. I was taking that for about a year and a half, and I'm just taking a break from it now. But I believe that when I went on that fenbendazole, um, the tumors really shrunk. I was amazed because I had a scan, and then I started that protocol, and then I had a scan about 4 or 5 months later, and three of the four tumors had shrunk to more than half. And I kind of attributed to that, right? But now I'm taking artemisinin, um, and trying to think of, I think I take about and then I take specific things that help with the liver enzymes, like the acolic acid, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And I just started something new, which I ran by the naturopath today, and he said he'd heard of it. Um, and it's I don't even remember the name of it. Are you interested in what the name of it is?
Yeah, if you have it.
Okay, hang on just a second here. Um, I'm just going to switch off for a second here. Um, it's called pentadeconic, pentadecanoic acid. It's a C15. And the research was done with some Navy dolphins.
Mm.
And I ran it by my naturopath today, and it blocks a lot of the pathways to cancer. And I think it works a little bit like berberine, but it's a new fatty acid that apparently um, um, is a fairly new discovery. So, and it's been patented by this company, and so I'm trying that.
Interesting. I will have our researchers and Dr. Ahmed Alsaka look, and I'll get his opinion on it as well and see what he thinks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Antrodia camperata is a mushroom that I take. And that is from Taiwan, and it grows on, I think it grows on a tree that only grows in Taiwan. So I take that mushrooms. I buy the powder from there, and then I have my own capsule maker. So I'm into this deep, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I want to say, again, just kind of emphasizing, we're not endorsing this for anybody. We're just talking about and you're testing, you've been doing this for so long. These are the choices that you're making.
Yes, and
Right.
I test so often, and I take so many different things. So, and I try things, but I've dropped things too, right? So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and you have your spreadsheet, right? So if you start taking something and then
yeah,
you're looking at all of your markers and you see something shift, it gets easy to kind of dial it in and see, is that helping, hurting, or is it not doing anything? Because
yeah,
it can
right.
also get expensive too.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. They do get expensive, and I'm not, I would never tell somebody I think you should do this, or that because like you say, everybody is different, and you may have the same cancer. You may have had even close to the same thing that happened to me. It was in the small intestine, it's removed, and it had metastasized to the liver. Okay, but that doesn't mean that whatever I'm doing is going to work. So I don't recommend what I do to people and say, I think you should do this. I'm
Yeah.
doing this for me, but I test myself extensively. So
And, everybody has different genes and different mutations. And so you just never
their
know.
diets are different, their sleep habits are different, and I make sure that my bedroom is clean, no television, no electronics, no nothing,
Mm.
so I make sure I get really good sleep as well.
Oh, so important.
Yeah.
So important. I think we underestimate how important sleep is and sleep hygiene, not having
Yeah.
all of the EMF going off when we're sleeping. And, my husband's a little extreme. He actually turns the breaker off to our bedroom every night.
I
Um,
don't think that's
so,
extreme at all.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that people have done that, or have even switched on to, having like getting rid of Wi-Fi because of the EMFs in it, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so I don't know. Yeah, I anything to me is not extreme. it's extreme to other people that will say, "Oh, come on," but we know, but like you know much more than I do because you're involved and with these doctors and all the time. So, um, you know, it's a real factor. And I
Yeah.
just when I talked to my naturopath today, he just said, "I just don't understand why." He fights with this all the time because he says over 60% of his patients are cancer patients, and their oncologists aren't really on board with what they're doing, and he just doesn't understand why. And I mean, it's like it's time.
Yeah.
It's time now, right? Because obviously nothing has worked and things aren't getting better and you just see the state of some people and you just want to reach out and help them and just I want to help people. If somebody came to me for help, I'd be there in a heartbeat, but nobody likes to talk. I have a sister and a brother-in-law who both have cancer, and they just say, "Well, you do what you do, and we'll do what I do." And I go, "Okay, fine. You have to respect what people want to do, right?" And some of them,
Totally, and where they're at in their process.
absolutely, absolutely, and it's everybody has their own story, and some
Yeah.
even go different routes and have success stories. So,
I get calls often with somebody saying, "Hey, my family member, my sister, my brother, my husband or wife were just diagnosed. Can you talk to them?" And it's just not that easy to do that, right? They have
oh,
to be in a place where they want to learn and explore. But it's also, not easy. And when you get diagnosed with cancer, it's very scary, and you just want somebody to fix you.
I know, yes. Like, I hear often that people will just say if they have a tumor, like, just get it out of my body, right? And I think that, and I just think when you're first diagnosed, um, it's hard to do, but just take a breath and, sleep on it for a bit because that cancer just didn't appear there. It's been there for a long time. So just, think about what the oncologist says, think about what you think and discuss it with, the people you want to, and you just kind of go with your gut, right? Like and I'm all for oncologists, but I kind of challenge things too, but that's just my nature, and it's not everybody's nature. I have a brother-in-law now who's just been diagnosed in January with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And it's really hard for me to not get involved, and I've offered, anytime, I can talk or help or this or that, but they haven't taken me up on it. And I just, and I just back off and just support in whatever they're doing, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, it's really hard. And it's also hard because people have this perception that I have the best doctor, the best oncologist that there is. And the point I like to emphasize there is that oncologists are specialized in the cancer and in the tumors or the circulating cancerous cells, but they are not specialists in the entire body and why
yes.
the cancer is cancering and
Mhm.
why the body is producing the cancer that they don't specialize in.
Yeah.
They're focused on how do we get the cancer out. And I know that these treatments and these drugs or this surgery or this radiation is going to remove the cancer, but it's not focused on why the body's cancering in the first place. And that's
That's
the
right.
approach, right, that we are taking is let's
Mhm.
actually get the body to a place where it's not trying to cancer.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I had when I talked to the PRT specialist a couple of weeks ago to do this targeted chemotherapy radiation, I said to him, that just kills the active cancer. It doesn't kill the stem cells, right? And he said, no, it does not kill the stem cells. So, and I don't think that from my understanding, chemo radiation, they don't kill the stem cells. So um, I thought, okay, if I get this done, it's suggested that you do it in 4 treatments and one every 8 weeks because it's quite intense. You're radioactive and it's just nasty, right? But I was considering it because I thought if I do one treatment, it will kill the active cancer. And then I'm going to do all this other stuff metabolically with um, mistletoe, vitamin C, artesunate, and that's going to kind of go in and kill the stem cells to weaken them, right? So that was kind of my strategy. But now I don't have to do the PRT because I don't qualify it for it because, like I say, it's like they're diagnosing me for the first time because I'm the same as I was 9 years ago. So they won't do that until I do this protocol first. And like I say, that's where I'm at. And I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
much better suited for it now because your body is metabolically healthy, so you can support the treatment that much better.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
which is important. You know, we talk about these treatments taking such toll, and if we're not ready for them to support them, then it can make it that much harder. And if we can go into it and we can be complementary on the side of our whole body health, then we can make the treatment one that much more effective. And
yes.
we can not get us sick from it. You know,
Mhm.
there's a lot that can be done now to like reduce side effects, not lose your hair, not lose weight, not vomit all
Oh,
the
for
time.
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of these things out there, tools out there that we can use to make it a much better process for us.
That's what my naturopath said. He said, if you, you know, he said, if you want to do one treatment, do one treatment. He said, and then we're here for you because we can give you this, and that's going to help mitigate all the side effects. And I said, well, I'm a bit concerned about my age because doing this at 70 is different doing it if you're 30 or 40. And he goes, you're so healthy. He said, it won't be a problem. He goes, I wouldn't be surprised if you sailed through it. You will be here. We'll give you some stuff that will, will help, like I say, mitigate the effects. He said, so at least give one a try. And like I say, I was willing to, but now it's not an option. But it's there for the future
Yeah. Yeah.
if I need it.
Positive tools.
But my plan is to stall the growth now of these tumors and then work on shrinking them. So I'm a very optimistic person. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
And what would you tell somebody else who is listening to this and is just newly diagnosed, or maybe not newly diagnosed, but starting to explore?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Um, I don't know. I probably would maybe, if you have a chance to meet with a naturopath that specializes in oncology, or even a naturopath to talk about what can I do to, maybe I'm off here treating the cancer with chemotherapy and radiation, but what can I do to get my body, healthy again? And it's through your naturopath or a nutritionist, and you just really have to look at your lifestyle and see what changes you can make.
Yeah.
And, because we all can. And, and I sure as heck don't think it's ever too late because I've read too many success stories, right?
Yeah.
So, just reach out, to somebody like I say, a health professional that believes in the metabolic factor as being, part of your healing, journey, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And a word of encouragement to the naturopath that you're working with now and the other doctors that you're working with. We actually have a lot of MDs now and oncologists that have started going through our clinician training program because they are, wanting to learn, wanting to be able to make recommendations, wanting to practice. And some are actually moving out of the insurance standard of care model and moving into
Oh,
becoming consultants, which
yeah.
is amazing.
And I can also say another thing that's really helped is I've listened to a lot of podcasts and they're free and you can just like I have there's a lot of platforms for that, whether it's Spotify or Apple, whatever. I just pick a subject and alternative health. They have total categories in there and then just do just listen to some people who are experts in these fields. And that can, if you can't afford or a naturopath or that sort of thing, start with just listening to some of these experts. And that really, really, solidifies what I'm doing is when I listen to these people, because I know some of them have been standard of care oncologists that are switching over to being integrative oncologists, and I'd like to see it obviously go more that way. And like I say, I've considered going to Germany, I've considered going to Mexico, whatever happens. And I think that here in Canada, um, I think we have some advantages. I can get lots of things. Like I just get the mistletoe delivered to my house. It's easy, and I don't know if you can. And I get the fenbendazole, which
Yeah.
I think in the States, it's menbendazole is like they say the human grade, but I think they're probably both the same. But I think you have to get those prescription. I can buy it by bulk, and it costs me about $400, and it lasts me for a year.
Wow.
So there are some cheap ways. And if you can just, uh, like I say, podcasts are a huge, huge resource.
Yeah.
And it's a win-win. I'll put on a podcast and go for a walk, and I'm learning something, and it just gives you some ideas, and you can hear one thing that think, okay, I'm going to look that up. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. That I can tell you that's what had really helped me on my journey. Wasn't cancer; it was actually a diagnosis of dementia, early onset dementia, about 10 years ago. And podcasts are what really started getting me to look at different perspectives and things and understand. And it just kind of evolves from there. And you don't have to take it on all at once. Um,
No.
New information that's coming out every day, and when we look at the different areas of our body that we're trying to focus on, whether it be hormones or microbiome or blood sugar, you can kind of take it in these bite-sized chunks and just work on
Yes.
little things.
Yeah. And it's just baby steps. It can seem so overwhelming at first, but just making one change, or you can hear a word or you can listen to something that's going to get you excited. I was thinking of doing a triathlon, and I listened to this woman who I think she's 78 or 79 now, and she did the Hawaiian Ironman, I think like 22 times or something. And I heard a podcast from her. And then she said, and she left her email if you're interested, have any questions. So I emailed her. She lives in California. And I ended up having a telephone conversation with her because, I mean, I just do these little tries just to keep busy and keep things fun, right? And she said, at your age, or any age for that matter, she said, the main thing you need to do is strength training. And so that was 2.5 years ago, and I started it it was during COVID. So as soon as COVID was over, that was the first thing I did. Started lifting weights and working out, and I absolutely love it. So that was a podcast that I heard that you just never know where it's going to lead you. Or I hear this word or something that somebody's talking about, and I'll investigate it and see if it's right for me, and you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have a good doctor, like I say, I have a really good GP, and if I tell her why I want this particular prescription or this particular test done, she she's just a phone call away, and she does that. So that's really good too.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is so nice when you can find the right GP. It's not always that easy. Um,
No.
Sometimes you have to shop, doctor shop. We should
Yeah.
find the person that we connect with, because that makes all the difference. And I will say, I love that on the strength training. Often, you hear people that just go on the shop for osteo. And I just want to say, just get your vitamin D levels in check and do
Mhm.
some strength
Yeah.
training. It can really make a difference.
Yeah. I have a son-in-law that says to me, him and his wife come up and visit from time to time. They have a couple of kids, and he said, if I ever am diagnosed for cancer, he goes, you'd be the first person I come to. It's quite sweet.
Yeah, I mean, our bodies have such an innate ability to be able to heal themselves given the
They
right
want
Oh,
to
and
heal. Our body wants to heal ourselves, right?
yeah. I mean, even cancer itself, it's just trying to survive. It's not trying to destroy the host. It's just trying to survive. And, it's lost the ability to die, which
Yeah.
is what apoptosis is, right? Apoptosis
Mhm.
is cell death. And when our cancer or when our cells get sick, they lose the ability to die. And so
Yeah.
they're just trying to survive. And if we get our body back in check, they can start to die off.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I do is I make my own turmeric and ginger shots. So I get the roots and I just scrub them because I leave the skin on them and then I juice them and mix them with lime juice and water and some pepper and a little bit of oil and I take those shots for health every day.
Mm,
So, you
yummy.
know, yeah. So, like I say, you just do one little thing and
Doesn't have
and
to cost $1 million.
no, it doesn't, and a lot of it's free. And just you'll notice, you'll just you'll notice things like right away just by oh, I just did this one thing or did these two things, and I'm starting to feel better. Or you notice it. One day you wake up and you go, I feel better today. I've got some energy today. And you think, what have I been doing differently? And so it just, and then it snowballs from there, right? You think, oh, maybe I'll try this next time. So, and you're right, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to listen to podcasts, to be inspired and to maybe just change your eating habits a little bit just to start, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the cheapest things you can do that's free is just go put your feet on the dirt.
Yeah, I love grounding. Yeah, I sleep on a grounding mat too, so
Yeah, I do too. Grounding mat, grounding sheets, grounding.
yeah.
Uh,
We have a lot in common.
yeah, it makes such a huge difference.
Hmm.
We don't realize how much we need that. We've got these positive ions flowing through all the time. I'm actually going to see if I can get this picture to come up. I was at a conference last week, and the gentleman who was speaking, it was actually Robbie, the CEO of Therapies, and he was trying to get people to understand how much EMF phones were giving out. And so he was trying to think, how can I visually show it? So he used a camera that actually captured it. And I'm
Oh.
hoping that this displays, but I'll
Oh,
thing. So you can see this white dot. That's
yeah.
the cell phone. And
That's the cell phone?
that's the cell phone on the floor. Oh, it's good. That's the cell phone on the floor. And it
Oh my,
captured the EMF coming out of that cell phone. The picture did.
that's
And so we
crazy.
think about this. We have this going around us all the time. It's bound to affect us because we are energy. This is energy. We are
Yeah.
energy. It's going to affect us. And so earthing and grounding is free. And we can't, we're not going to live without cell phones, but we can mitigate,
Hmm.
you know?
I bought this safe sleeve that I have on my cell phone, and I don't use my cell phone. People say, "Why do you still have a landline?" I said, "Well, because first of all, I don't talk on the phone that much, but I don't like talking on the cell phone, and I don't need to, right? I use it for don't even use it that much. I'll use it for texting or with my daughter who lives in the UK, but." It's I just even if I can not even talk on it as much as other people, I think every little bit helps, right? It adds up over the
It
years.
does add up. It does
Yeah.
add up for sure. Yeah. Funny that you said about the home phone. We tried to get a home phone and it's not available in our area anymore. It is there. There is a phone and it rings, but it sounds like the old poltergeist movies where it's like, my grandkids love it because they go around and play with it, but they don't.
Yeah.
It won't work.
Yeah.
And the company here we have Comcast, and they're like, yeah, we don't have that. I guess analog anymore, and the digital doesn't really work. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we tried. We definitely tried. So,
Yeah.
um, well, anything else you would like to share?
Oh, geez. I don't think so right now, Cindy. I'll get off this call and I think, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that, but
You can always email me and I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, yeah, if I think of something that I think was something, a good point or something, and I think that was relevant, I will do that for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being willing to tell your story and put it out there to the world.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing the end result, and it was really a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, you as well.
Okay, okay.